AI has quietly become one of the most powerful tools for business owners, but it's not just about automation. It's about making your business more efficient and more profitable. Today's guests have used AI to help their clients achieve incredible results, slashing workdays down from hours to minutes to driving millions of dollars in revenue with AI-generated copy and marketing. This is Ryan Atkinson, and you're listening to the UpFlip podcast, where we uncover the secrets of building and running successful businesses. Everyone, we have three guests on today's episode in Jason Parker, David Garfinkel, and Scott Zetlan, three innovators who have transformed how businesses use AI. They've helped their clients boost sales, optimize workflows, and create high-performing marketing campaigns, all with the help of AI agents. And the best part is you don't have to be a programmer or tech genius to do this. Jason, David, Scott, thank you all so much for being here. I'm excited to have a lot of fun with you guys today.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us.
To give everyone the context, let's kind of wind back the clock on all your stories. And Scott, we'll start with you, then we'll go to David, and we'll go to Jason, just so listeners can also know whose voices are whose. So Scott and everyone, can you guys give us a little bit of background on how you've used AI to grow your business and that for clients? Kind of give us our background into AI.
Absolutely. I'll just give you just a quick background. We do and own a software, optimization software that helps people do thousands of tests at a single time to optimize their paid traffic campaigns, et cetera. So we're helping businesses that sometimes are either just getting started out or are extremely already successful optimize. Really, if I want to keep it simple, we are able to take our workflow, our research workflow that we used to take somebody full-time, close to 2 weeks, we can get it down to 3 hours for any client. Now, on the flip side, just as a little teaser that we can talk about, we've also been able to take those inputs that we're going to be using for testing. So it all ties back to copy, variations that we're going to test, and have seen increases for clients on a single test by as much as 45 to as much as over 300% increases in actual conversions on a single test.
I love it. David, can you kind of give a little bit of about how you got into AI, and then Jason, will go to you as well. But yeah, there's a lot there, and we're definitely going to hit on that. So everyone stay tuned in for that.
Let me say something very unpopular. I used to hate AI. I used to think it was terrible. And that was because people were sending me stuff that they did with AI that was really half-assed. And I'm, a copywriter and a copywriting coach, and I write books about copywriting, and I have a podcast about copywriting. And I was looking at this stuff and I said, oh, this is awful. I mentored Jason about 12 years ago, and we just lost touch and then crossed paths. And I saw what he was doing. I was totally blown away because it was qualitatively different. It wasn't like incrementally different. It was quantum different. So to answer your question, that's my background, but to answer your question, how I'm using it. So I do this podcast every week. I know you're a go with the flow guy. I'm more scripted. When I interview someone, I go with the flow. When I do my own, I like a script. And it has taken me up to 2 days to write a half-hour script. Last night, I had an idea. I put together 80% of it in about 20 minutes, and I asked it to write in my voice, and it's in my voice. I've also used it. Now, I know a lot of people don't do that, but probably a lot of people post to social media. I do very specific kind of posts, which are both informative and sell my book, The Persuasion Story Code, all in about 300 words. And Jason helped me put together a bot that got the writing time on that from 2 to 3 hours down to about 15 minutes.
That's crazy. And then, Jason, can you kind of give your background there as well?
Yeah. So I don't know if there are any marketing or advertising agencies listening, but I came to AI out of absolute necessity because my agency was growing. We were drowning in work. I got to the point where I said I could either hire more copywriters and kind of take a hit because margins are already kind of slim. I don't know if you know anything about that business, but it really takes a hit. It's almost not even worth hiring somebody else. So I got into it out of absolute necessity, and I ended up going down this rabbit hole because it kept getting better and better. And we're at the point now where we can literally crank out email campaigns like in minutes with certain pre-programmed agents and bots and whatnot. At least the first, version of that. But it's just, I've gotten more and more dependent upon it. And we've been able to create these agents or bots that write exactly the way I would have written something. Literally, like exactly, because we program it down to the parts of speech. Like it knows what kind of verbs I use, even what kind of phrases I use. And so when I crank something out with it, it's an extension of myself. Like this bot becomes an extension of me. That's what makes it different than other AI. And I think all three of us, we all kind of got involved in my mastermind to begin with, but we all kind of branched out together because we realized we were the three obsessed ones and everything was changing. And, processes that took weeks ended up taking days now, or, hours down to minutes. And we've written campaigns that have done, $420,000 in a single day from a webinar. In that same campaign ended up making over 900 grand, written with AI, all emails, as well as the first version of the webinar script. So imagine you have 10 different clients, it's basically 10 different full-time jobs, if you're an agency. So you end up having to use this stuff or hire more people. And there's just no way I could have handled 10 different clients without it.
All right, let's get very practical here with people that are listening to the show that want to start their companies or at the early stages of their companies. Let's use the building the campaign example. How can AIs be used by these businesses to reduce those workloads and increase efficiency?
I can jump in here just because 10 minutes before coming on this show, I wrote 10 really good long form Facebook ads for a client. Now, we don't typically, just so it's known, write for a client. We're helping them out with the situation. So this is going to their media buy team. So picture this. They have, a full media buying team. They have full staff, but their ads in this particular case weren't performing as well as they should be. Literally 10, 15 minutes, 10 variations. If anybody, for your listeners to listen, the first line or two of those ads where they have to click more is a huge impact on the results they'll get. It just sends a signal to Facebook. 30 variations that I'm turning over of those first ads so they can test. So to your specific question, and I'm sure Jason and David have a lot of other examples. If you have somebody that's new on your podcast or trying to get something going, one of the biggest things is, do we have not only ad copy that converts, but what do they see? Even though I talked to you about testing, when they get to the actual page and funnel, because you're not going to get anywhere, no matter what level you're at, whether you're expert level and big company spending a lot of money or you're brand new. And one of the biggest constraints that I see among new businesses is, we're in a direct response medium, the internet, regardless of core. And if you can't write copy that converts, you're not going to get anywhere. So from my standpoint, it's going to help them get ads that are going to have a much, much better chance of converting that they'll be able to test. It's going to constrict that time. And Jason and David both mentioned something. They talk about sounding like you. The nice part is it can sound like you, but be structured in a way that's already been proven to convert. So that's just my takeaway from something that literally 10, 15 minutes before I was on this podcast.
So how do you make it sound like you? Talk to us about the specific model you're using as this ChatGPT. How do you make it sound like you, and how do you train it to build out this copy?
To answer this question as well, do you want to start off your business writing generic AI copy? No. I mean, that's what everybody's seeing and they're sick of it. They can spot it a mile away. You want to start off kind of up here where you're writing in your own voice already and you're starting to build that brand voice. That's the answer to that question. So how do you use AI to write in your brand voice? Now, the way to do that, and it's not by using any particular model because the models change, they get better. And there's Anthropic and there's OpenAI and all these models, Mixtral, stuff like that. I think right now, I would say Claude 3.5 Sonnet is the best. But it's not really the model itself that makes the magic work, although it is the best model. Because not too long ago, I think like one of the GPT models like 4.0 was probably better. But the way you get it to write in your voice, now it's hard to explain. And I think you're actually going to give away prompt chunks is what we call on this call. And that has a lot to do with writing in your voice because prompt chunks allow the AI or teach the AI how to triangulate down to this very minuscule part of copy. Like, your tone, your voice, your style is all down to the parts of speech and certain phrases you use. So that's what the chunks allow you to do. And that's the way you want to talk to it. Because the problem is that if you're using generic AI copy or someone else's AI solution, it's not programmed down to the parts of speech or the phrases or the types of things you would say, like the types of verbs you would use or nouns you would use. And it's kind of funny because it goes back to like high school English or something like that. All the stuff you thought wouldn't be relevant now is all of a sudden important. So it's kind of funny how that works. It's all of a sudden valuable in this world of AI.
Yeah. So I can give an example too. I mean, and everything I'm telling you, I learned from Jason, but you can blame me if I got it wrong. He's a really good teacher, but I'm sometimes an inattentive student. So, when you're writing ads, you want them to be in your own voice. when you're writing a script for your own podcast, you really need it to be in your own voice. And so one of the things I've done is I have some scripts I wrote without AI, and I will include them in what's called a knowledge base. And I will instruct the AI, I want you to follow my voice, tone, rhythm, sentence word choice in what you're generating. And I say, I am David Garfinkel. I wrote what I just attached in your knowledge base, and I want it to sound like me, right as me. But those 5 things, that's what I learned from Jason, because Jason got me really attuned to why AI was screwing up so bad almost 99% of the time. And he systematically, almost like with tweezers, pulled out the things it was doing wrong and showed me and others, because he knows himself, how to remedy those things. So there's a lot of different things you need to do. I mean, if you look at a professional ghostwriter who might make 6 figures to write someone's book in their own voice, there are a lot of different things that they look at. Well, if you can get an AI to do a large chunk of that, you're going to have some very authentic sounding copy.
I'd just like to put an explanation point on this, just one sentence. So as somebody that sees thousands and thousands of variations and ads in real time from companies across the board, I can tell you most of the stuff that is being spit out by AI, whether it's content for your audience that's going to start it, whether it's ads, whether it's a landing page, is spottable by a mile away by anybody that's ever read. And it's certainly spottable by, if that's even a word, by your audience, which is more important. And it just doesn't convert. So everybody's trying to sell this magic solution that AI is going to solve the problems. And all, at least from my point of view, from what I'm seeing firsthand, it's producing a lot of junk that doesn't convert. And I just want to tie that in because you'd mentioned a lot of your audience is either looking to start at the beginning of starting, and that can become very, very frustrating if they don't have what I believe David calls, the magic eye. If you don't know enough to see that it's not working, you're putting out a lot of junk.
UpFlippers, if you guys are looking to join a community of like-minded entrepreneurs or just looking for that next business idea, go check out the UpFlip Academy. We are taking a ton of actual advice that you can then implement for your businesses. I just attended a workshop where we learned about ChatGPT prompts for SEO and social media. And I'm not even kidding you guys. We built out a lead magnet based off of this workshop for Space Visuals that we are now using because of this workshop. So there is a ton of valuable advice in here. So everyone, if you are looking for a community of like-minded people, go check out the UpFlip Academy. We have a ton of great upcoming workshops and I want to see you guys there. Jump in, say hi, and I will see you guys all at the UpFlip Academy. So let's dive into that a little bit more, because I think the listeners, at least for me, is like, well, how do I actually generate these prompts, and how do I give it instructions to do so? So what's the process of giving AI the right instructions so it can produce quality content for businesses without being overly technical? And listeners, you can download the 5 prompts that make AI more conversational by clicking the link in the episode description below. But I want to start there. What's the process of giving AI the right instructions to actually create this copy?
It's an entire process we call novice triangulation. I know that sounds great. But the way it is we give AI essentially an overall macro view structurally and its task, but we break it down into micro and micro steps. So we triangulate it literally. So just the chunks, for example, are more about granular triangulations, if that makes sense. That's going to dig down to the word level, the sentence level, the phrasal level. But the way you really get control over the AI and absolute control over it is through the macro combined with the micro instructions. So that's usually done with rules and examples. And you can see that the prompt chunks themselves are made up of rules and examples. So that's just an example. That'll give you an idea of how to really get control of it from a sentence level, which is a lot of the battle. But to get it to write a 9 email sequence that's actually used in a strategic marketing way, where maybe it's a webinar campaign, for example, and there's introducing what's going on and then building anticipation for it, and then saying it's tomorrow, and then having a replay sequence, and then having little bits of scarcity and urgency and whatnot. So that takes macro type structure, feeding it. So your question is asking us exactly what do we do all day? It's the entire triangulation method, but essentially it's just going from macro to micro. So starting out wider and then triangulating with all this data, giving it all these different points so that it knows exactly what you're talking about. If you don't do that, then you're just giving it more space to do what it wants to do. I guess what it wants to do is probably not the best way to say it, but the problem people have is they're giving very vague instructions. You can think about they're giving blurry instructions to it, but what we're giving is crystal clear clarity, very vivid instructions, because we're taking it macro and breaking it down micro and micro and micro, if that makes sense.
Can I add to that just a little bit, that maybe from my point, that maybe a little bit of clarity? And I love that. It's exactly what we do, but it's not as complicated as it sounds when you understand and go through the process. So it takes a little bit more work. What most people are doing and what most people are buying and being sold is, prompt, sound like Gary Halbert, write in a friendly tone. And that at least is right. Like when Jason talks and you try that, trust me, you're going to get like that junk that we talked about before. There's just no way of knowing. I'll just add one last thing in here from my point of view. If somebody comes without any real copywriting experience, they wonder, well, how do I know where to start the macro? How do I, get down to the micro? I'll just let you know, in the mastermind, built out a lot of bots. So anybody that's coming in, and they're built around all those, let's say, I don't want to use the word perfect, but like well-structured macros, and then taught how you get down to those micros so it sounds like you. So I just want to throw that out there, that from my point of view, somebody could potentially, from your audience, if it's appropriate, start and say, listen, I don't know copy. These guys know copy, or I don't want to be a programmer. I need to tell you, like, to create, maybe this would be an illustration, not a direct one, to create the Facebook long form ads bot that I created today, based upon now having this kind of structure and having it sound like me. It took about an hour. But it's an hour now forever in this specific long form format that I know. So your listeners could do the same thing. I don't want it to sound, it is definitely a process that I haven't seen anyplace else, that nobody else is doing, but it's not out of reach. You don't have to be a prompt engineer to be able to get down there and figure it out.
I want to talk a little bit of practical advice for people that are listening and that are just starting out. We were obviously hearing like you can build like Facebook ads on it, like you guys have built marketing campaigns, but what are some other easy ways to integrate AI into early business practices?
I'll hit that first, and then there, just really briefly, there really isn't and I don't want to be too broad because I know it's a specific question, so I'll just rattle this off real quick. There really isn't a part of your business starting out that doesn't involve you writing something. I mean, it just doesn't. If you're, regardless of what kind of business you're in, you're producing blog posts, you're producing content, you're producing, like David said earlier, social media content that you're going to need, whether organic or paid. You're producing ads. You need an ability to be able to do that. And I would argue that you need an ability. You don't have to be an A copywriter, but in today's day and market, with things becoming more and more competitive, and it's becoming more and more competitive every day, you have to be able to write at a certain level. That's the missing piece. Like if you see, no matter what business they're in, and you'll see groups or forums, or occasionally people will come to us, even though they're, and we'll see, the copy, the pages, even if they've been led, even if they've gone through a course, whatever, it's just horrible. And that's the reason their stuff isn't converting, right? Everything requires a conversion, regardless of the business model for the people we're talking about. Whether you're collecting emails, whether you want people to consume your content, whether you want people to like, know, and trust you. So I think that the number one way this is going to help people listening to your audience is the ability to produce that content at a level that maybe they would struggle with themselves and would take either a tremendous amount of time and or a lot of money to invest in.
Yeah. And, when you're starting a business, what do you need? You need a website. So you can write a landing page. You can write a really good one. You can write an About Us page. You can write a frequently asked questions page. A good AI will even come up with the questions and the answers for you. And sometimes if you're, in the 19th hour of your day, it's going to be sharper than you are. It might think of something that you left out. If you're starting an e-commerce business, you're going to need a sales page. And, the AI can write that for you. Of course, you're going to need to write emails. You're going to need to write sales emails and content emails. AI can do that for you. So, yeah, all of the writing, if you have, authentic agents that can write in your voice, you can get all of that done by AI. And I know people who've taken a year to do their own website. I mean, copywriters are the worst when it comes to writing for themselves because they're always used to writing on super short deadlines for everyone else. There's nothing left in the tank. So, yeah, I think there are a lot of obstacles that you can get over this way.
Yeah, I will add this too as well. When you're first starting out and later on, I was going to say, I love organic strategies. I love organic marketing and content. And at first, you're especially relying upon that. And like, I'm more of an advanced player. I've been around for 20 years. I still love organic. But for the people who are listening, I know that this could help them. I know that, authentic agents that write in their voice can help them write two-step Facebook posts. Two-step Facebook posts can make a lot of money. I'm telling you. I don't know if you're talking about there, but basically two-stepping is you're not cold DMing anybody, but you're saying, I have this. You have a post that says, I have this available. And if you're interested, reply and I'll DM. That process works extremely well. But you need quality content to be able to even do that. And you need to be able to crank it out fast if you're marketing yourself organic means, especially, with YouTube and whatnot and podcasts. I mean, you always need content for the podcast. You need the introductions and whatnot. You always need video scripts. You always need content. And then also when you get to this stage of growth where you need to make hires, you may not have to now, if you have your AI dialed in. And that's what I like about that. You may not have to hire at all at that point. You may want to because you might want to go on vacation every once in a while. But in my case, I didn't want to make a ton of hires for my company when I got to a certain point.
I'm just smiling because I was thinking about a post that I saw earlier, and we're talking about authentic view. If a lot of people try to do what Jason just said through ChatGPT, and all they're doing, I don't even know if this is a thing, flame was the old thing, or spam on the thing, trolls coming out. Well, nice, your AI post. I mean, all you have to do to any business group is go in and it sticks out like a sore thumb. And I'm smiling because somebody tried to do something like that. And most people are becoming very sophisticated to see, and they want authenticity. So what I think for me sums up is, how do you get the production and the promise of AI with the authenticity? And so that only applies to all of your listeners that may be starting out anew, but it's also a big concern with brands, which have backed away from it because, if we take what's good for brands, they cannot afford to put out inauthentic, bad content that doesn't resonate.
I don't want to get too much into computer science here, but you got to think about this question. If you ask the AI to write something and you don't have authentic prompts and you aren't putting in the right information, where's it going to get the information from? That's a big unknown. So it's going to start writing about stuff based on something it found somewhere in some country or in some website, and it's not going to write it very well. It's going to write it in this sort of passive, academic, bloated style. And people don't generally want to do business with someone who sounds like that.
I want to ask a specific example on how someone could use AI, and I want to use the website example you guys talked about. So a common thing, obviously, when you're launching your business is to be like, okay, well, let me go build out a website. How can someone use AI to build out their first website? Talk to me about the content on the page. Talk to me about using SEO, copy, of course. Yeah, talk to us about that.
Some of the agents that we built are things that will identify the pain points, that will elaborate on those pain points in a way that the market is looking, what I call dimensionalization, right? What does that look like to your pain points? Elaborate on the benefits and value propositions that are most important. So for me, one of the first questions, we talked a lot about writing, right? But what does that look like? So if you're creating even a simple homepage, right? We've seen, all of us, I am sure, have seen some really, really bad homepages or websites. You want to talk naturally, which is something we've been talking about, authentically. But ultimately, you need to answer three questions. Why am I here? What can I do here? And why should I do it with you? And if you're not answering those three questions at its basis, and so I look at it, how can it answer your question specifically? AI agents can answer those three questions. They can go in a little bit deeper. And even if you're not the best writer, let's forget about the writing side of this. You will know what to write about and how to present, which I will tell you from my experience in reviewing thousands of websites is you're going to be that much further off when you start out. Too many people, and I'll just stop at this, write about them. This is what we do. So if you understand it's about the consumer, it's about your prospect, that's the way I would look at its basis. Be able to do that and pinpoint exactly what and who you should be talking to and how you should talk to them.
Yeah, targeting is more important than copy. If you have brilliant copy, but it's written to the wrong market, it doesn't matter. If you have decent copy with a good offer, pinpointing the right market, it's going to convert. Now, I'm sure Scott can tell you that there are a million things you can do with just okay copy to make it convert better. But the point is, when you're putting up a website, it needs to be it's not about you. It's not about your business. It's about your customer, their problem or their desire, and what you can do for it. And if you're not an experienced marketer, you're going to spend a long time trying to figure it out, and you might get it wrong the first 3 or 4 times. Most of us have earlier on in our own careers. And so AI can save you a lot of grief and heartache just by getting you on the right track.
Yeah, there are various ways to use this. And a lot of the AI solutions out there kind of require you to fill out tons and tons of fields with information. But the way we use AI is also as a brain in itself to do a lot of the thinking for you. So there's different approaches to it. You could have a templated kind of approach, or you can have a cross between templated and organic, or you could actually put your own information into it, or you can have it prompt you for information, or you can ask it to go out there and make lists and lists of benefits and lists of pain points and potential angles, and give you the stuff that you normally have to think about. So there's just endless possibilities with it. And I just want to say, if you use it the correct way, you don't have to go and fill out blank after blank after blank, when you're trying to use AI.
So we build out this website with AI, and I absolutely love this. We're updating our website right now. It's space for our visuals, and I need website suggestions and AI copy and all that type of stuff. So I love that. Let's just say someone builds out that first website. Okay, I'm ready to now do some sales activities. How can they leverage AI to identify that strategy and then also build out a campaign, or however you would do? How can they use AI to build out that sales strategy?
So I just will there. It depends, of course. We've talked about there's a lot of different strategies depending upon what business you're in and what kind of budget you have. Typically, right, Jason leans towards, at least there, I think it's great, an organic strategy, which a lot of businesses, depending on the business you're in, can lean on. And so he's already mentioned you can do that organically, right? It will help you create that strategy and a never-ending, I know that's some lit, of quality posts that you can keep your market engaged. If you have a small budget, which I usually recommend, I love paid ads, and you don't have to spend a fortune to do it. And so you can spin your wheels from strategy, not knowing who your market is, not knowing what their pain points is, not knowing how to properly structure an ad that's actually going to get clicks. And it's going to help you organize that strategy. And we talked about the last piece is what takes place on a landing page. In my mind, the way I put it out, no matter whether it's organic or paid, 30% is what takes place over here in the ad networks, whether that's organic or paid. 70% takes place what's on your page, right? You need the eyeballs. You want to pre-qualify, meaning you want them to pre-qualify that click. But once those eyeballs come to your page or pages. So I think people overcomplicate it. I think everything that we've talked about here gives you that strategy. And you can include organic and paid at the exact same time. It all depends on budget. That's a little bit of a broader question, but it helps you put those pieces together. And in a way, from somebody that I see how we can improve conversions, but at least out of the bat, right out of the box, have an opportunity to convert, because there's too many people. And I'm sure some listeners here that have tried, and it's just crickets. And for somebody that's really experienced, what again I used before, the magic eye, they can see right off the bat. Let's go under the assumption that people that are listening or that you're referring to don't have that option. So you want to give yourself the best shot going forward, and also have enough of that copy and be able to reiterate on it to be able to test and make it work. But I think it just falls through. If we want to keep it simple, eyeballs, and what are they going to see?
So in terms of the content on the page, here's a rule of thumb that's very unpleasant but extremely profitable. Unless you're a celebrity, nobody cares about you until they know what you can do for them. Okay? In business.
I have something to add to this, because literally, if you have your website set up, now you're in a very good position to take what you have and feed it into AI and just produce as much as you want. So literally that could be just taking the URL to your new site, putting into an email writing bot that writes 10 emails right for you right there, or into a VSL writer, boom, writes to the VSLs, or into a campaign crusher type thing that we built, which will give you every ad type of every major network. So you're getting like 6,000 words of content just spit out based on that URL. But also AI has recently gotten to the point where it can actually do a very good job of reading images. So you could take an image of your website and you could feed it to the AI, and that will feed it through any of these bots, and it will crank out what you need based on that. It's flawlessly reading images right now. Another way is to take that copy, put it into a document, upload that document into a writer, and you could actually build like a bot based around just that knowledge base if you wanted to. And I've done that with various clients where I'll take their information for their product, turn it into a knowledge-based document, build a bot around that, upload that knowledge base, and then now I have like this bot that's just built for this one client. I mean, I do it around my own company stuff too. So that's what I'd recommend. Actually, the thing is, it's mind-blowing how many different ways you can do all this. So I can recommend doing it in all those ways, honestly, every way I just said.
Yeah, and the bots don't take that long to build once you know how to do it. They really don't. You don't have to be a programmer. It's not expensive. You can sign up for something called po.com. That's what we use, which is technically an API. It lets you use a whole bunch of different AIs, and it looks pretty much just like ChatGPT. And you just load in your instructions, type in your command line, and it outputs the stuff. I mean, it's much simpler than I imagined it would be. It really is.
I'll just add one other thing, because we're talking about new people, just one sentence, is that imagine having an expert consultant look over your work. That's like, you come out, you're a shot in the dark, you're writing, which a lot of people do. They'll write their pages in isolation, right? And hope, and then try to struggle and get bad advice from groups. The bots at another level enable you to take what you're doing, because you were talking about strategy, and actually be able to have it give you recommendations. Where are you missing? Where can you improve? And so I look at it like, just like this expert consultant that most new businesses could never afford to get. And if they did, chances are they'd hire a few bad apples before they got there and burned through a lot of money.
Well, you guys have been expert consultants during this whole interview. And so that brings us to our Fan Blitz questions here. And these are our last 5 questions submitted from our community. And listeners, you can join in on World Class Entrepreneurs, get your voices heard by going to www.youtube.com/UpFlip and submit your questions there. But ready for our last 5 questions here?
Go for it.
Perfect. Number 1, you have 6 months to get rich. How are you doing this with AI?
Put it into a robot.
Honestly, mine's going to be like just more of a down-to-earth type of scenario. Number 1, evaluate your market and or markets before you even go into it. If you have to, have it write you a killer offer and landing page and some killer ads. It's about ads plus offer. But, so you can start right at the overall. But if you have that, I don't know about necessarily, disclaimer, getting rich, but you can be on your way to a really, really nice business. Most people, I know I'm harping, tend to head either in the wrong direction, the wrong market, or hitting those markets incorrectly.
Anyone jump in here? Could someone run a solo operation with the help of AI and make millions?
Yeah, I just think of that from a marketing standpoint, absolutely. From a customer service standpoint, you could build bots and agents to help with that now that automatically answer questions. That's pretty advanced agent building, and beyond the scope of what we talked about. But I think that very soon, it's people are just going to get replaced. So you're in a good place if you're an entrepreneur, because your whole business could just be ran by AI, literally, and you very, very soon.
I love it. Number 3, how can AI be used to help a home service business, or is it only useful for digital businesses?
I think it's easier. I think a home service business does not require the level of copy and beer that a typical business does. If you use just a fraction for what I've seen, and we've had larger companies on our platform, they will be so far ahead of what the typical home services business is, both from the ad side and from the conversion side on the funnels and landing pages, directly applicable.
Most people, when they get into business, they think they're going to go into one business. You're always going into 2 businesses. One is the business itself, and the second is the marketing of that business. And AI can shrink down the cost and the time and increase the results. So, I'm thinking especially of massage therapists and psychotherapists, and not chiropractors, but many other types of healers. All they want to do is do the work. They don't want to actually get the clients. Well, AI can help you do that and save you enormous amounts of time and money.
Two more here. Is ChatGPT the best AI tool to use?
Oh, wow. It keeps going back and forth because Claude is amazing. GPT is amazing, but right now in terms of what we do, I believe Claude has the upper hand. But GPT-5 is coming out. It's going to be more autonomous, potentially, and they're kind of vague about that. But if you can imagine, this is where everything's going. This is where we're going with the mastermind as well. But if you can imagine all this copywriting stuff, if there is an agent writing for you all day and you come sit at your computer and you're looking at 1,000 pages of copy that it wrote for you all day, I think that's where GPT's heading. So it may take the lead again. I think it may be able to do something like that soon. Although, like I said, they're vague, but there's more autonomous nature built into even the LLM itself that's coming out, aside from the bots and the agents you can build with it. So I think it will probably take the lead soon. Claude right now is the best, though, I think.
Last question for you guys here. I really like this question. I'm trying to start a business with a faceless Instagram page, and I want to have a lead carrots people can download for free in exchange for getting their email address. How do I get AI to write an ebook for me?
It's funny. We just had for one of our offers, what did we call it, Jason? There was a certain name behind it. But the bottom line is we've created it across just only because it's been in the past 7 days for 2 different offers that we're doing. And they're done, I would make the argument, in a very, I'll call high level, not that the writing they're meaning they're educational. It's not just gratuitous and a gratuitous sales letter, but in exactly the same way, my simple answer would be that everything we talked about today, it absolutely can create that lead magnet. And if you use some of the other agents that we talked about, you'll know exactly what should go into that lead magnet to make it successful.
We do have an ebook writer that we created and that we've all perfected together so many times and had different versions of it. But at this point, it can write a 120,000 word book in about an hour and a half. We do kind of like a semi-automated way we do it. We don't just let it run, like if you just let it run, you could run off the tracks, but we kind of look at the output as it's going. It could technically be automated completely, but I think it would take a huge pipeline to be able to do it.
So to elaborate on that, imagine having the book for the authority, right? Well written to the chapters that you want, having that broken down into several probably different ebooks if you wanted as well, and having all of those chapters then writing relevant social media posts for you that you now just can have automatically posted in your own voice. It's, way to go from 0 to 60, right? In essence, overnight, and become the authority in a market, which I think is huge, in an authentic voice.
Thank you so much for being here today. Appreciate it. Last question for you guys. Where can people learn a little bit more about you and connect with you guys?
Yeah, I'll tell you, we're going to put a special offer up for your listeners at getmynovus.ai. That's getmynovus.ai. If you go there, we're going to have something special for you.
Alrighty, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episodes. 3 quick takeaways for you. Number 1, if you guys are trying to build out a model, a ChatGPT bot that can interpret and can be human-like, you need to give it rules and you need to give it examples. Don't just plug in your prompt in there and hope for the best. Give it rules, give it examples. Number 2, the nice thing about writing with ChatGPT is you can actually produce something that comes at a higher level itself. But going back to that first takeaway, you need to be able to give it rules, give it knowledge base, and give it examples that it can then take and run with. Number 3, I love the little tidbit about going on your website that no one actually cares unless you're a celebrity. So you need to make your website memorable. You need to have it stand out. Why am I here? What am I going to get from this? And what are the next steps? Kind of 3 things that you need on your website. If you love this episode, click the link in the description to download our free gift from Jason, David, and Scott. 5 prompts that make AI writing more conversational. Check that out in the show notes below. Thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, that was fun.